Welcome to Frontline Wire. The United States and European Union considering massive 100% tariffs on China and India, all in a bid to pressure Russia. This proposal comes directly from President Donald Trump, who, during a high-level meeting with EU officials, urged them to join Washington in slapping these unprecedented tariffs. The target? Two of Russia's biggest economic lifelines, China and India. Both nations are major buyers of Russian oil, with China being the largest single purchaser and India's imports from Russia surging to nearly $69 billion last fiscal year. Trump's message to the EU was blunt. We'll do this, but only if you do it with us, aiming to choke off Russia's oil revenue by making it too costly for its biggest customers to keep buying. But the EU has traditionally preferred sanctions over tariffs, making this a potential shift in strategy with global trade implications. China has already called the idea economic coercion, while India has labeled earlier US tariffs unfair and unjustified. The US already raised tariffs on Indian imports to 50% earlier this year, and this plan would double that. For China, current tariffs sit at around 30%. So jumping to 100% could reignite a trade war. Washington's logic is that cutting off these buyers will shrink Moscow's war chest, but oil markets are complex and buyers can find alternative routes. Critics warn this could backfire, pushing China and India closer to Russia, especially as both have deepened ties with Moscow. Europe's own energy dependency on Russia complicates matters further, with nearly 19% of its natural gas still coming from Moscow last year. Some analysts see this as a strategic move to reassert US dominance in trade policy, but EU member states with strong trade links to Beijing and New Delhi are wary of the economic fallout. Trump's approach has been a mix of threats and praise, with Prime Minister Modi calling trade talks limitless in potential despite tensions over Russian oil. China is unlikely to bend, given its long-term energy deals with Russia, and both nations could retaliate with their own tariffs or trade restrictions. A 100% tariff is essentially a blockade, doubling prices overnight for importers, raising costs for consumers on electronics, textiles, and more, while disrupting supply chains. For Russia, the hope is that losing these buyers would force a change in its Ukraine strategy, but history shows sanctions rarely yield quick results. Moscow has proven adept at rerouting exports to willing buyers, often at discounted rates. Whether this plan works depends on US-EU unity and whether China and India see more cost than benefit in sticking with Russia. For now, it's just a proposal, but its mere presence on the table shows how far Washington is willing to go. If implemented, it could reshape alliances and trade flows for years, with impacts felt in factories, ports, and households worldwide. This is a high-stakes gamble, one that could either isolate Russia further or fracture the global economy in unpredictable ways. We'll be watching closely as the EU debates its next move and as China and India weigh their responses. The coming weeks could be decisive. For now, the message from Washington is clear. Share the pain together. Whether Europe signs on could define the next chapter of this geopolitical standoff.